Welcome back. I am very excited to have Maan Singh on today. He's a friend, and this is one episode that I've been really anticipating, and everyone I've spoken to about it has been really hyped because there's just so much to talk about here, and there's so few people who have the knowledge and the ability to convey the message as he does. So let's get right into it. Paji, can you introduce yourself and what you do?
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Well, to be honest, I feel like I don't do much at all, really. I noticed on one of the blogs or something that you put out that you wrote historian, and I was like, historian? Me? Never. I fully, in my heart, I'm not a historian, but Maharaj Kirpa, I've had the chance to live and stay with real historians, real Sikh historians who know their business, and to say I'm a historian is like to insult them. So all I am is, and all I believe that I am is just a Sikh who's in love with Sikhi. From the bottom of my heart, from my core, I love Sikhi. I love Guru Nanak Sikhi. I love what we've been given. And I love the Sakya that have made us into who we are and will make our children into who they will become. And I don't know why Maharaj and Kirpa me, I'm like a puppy dude, but from a young age, I've been able to do sangat of a lot of holy people, a lot of Sikh historians like Baba Santa Singh, Baba Kirtan Singh, Baba Daya Singh, Gyani Sher Singh, Gyani Inderjeet Singh, Baba Magar Singh, people who lived in the Dal, lived in Buddha Dal, lived in the Nihang Singh armies, and that's their whole life. They know everything like that there is to know about Sikhi, and they installed in me like a love and a connection with Sikhi that I'm just always thankful for and always grateful for. And why Sikh history and why I started Sikh history series is like, with a lot of us, what is our connection to Sikhi is through Sakya initially. For us guys, especially someone like me, to join with Gurbani straight away is very difficult because it's beyond contemplation and understanding. But from a young age, these Sakya that that I tell in the Sikh History Series podcast were first told to me by my mother and by my mom when we were going to sleep, when we were kids, when we were young, when we had no understanding. She never knew any nursery rhymes or any any of the kids' stories from the UK or this side. She only knew the old stories of the Sahibzad and stuff like that. And these were told to me when I was a kid. And these like grabbed my soul and held me and looked after me. So that initially brought my love for Sikhi from a child, and then growing up, going to kids camps and stuff. And then going on to why we started the podcast is all my life we've been listening to these stories and Sakya and telling them as well. And recently, in the last few years or so, me and a few Singhs were together, and they'd always say, "Yo, Maan Singh, tell us this Sakya, that Sakya, what happened here?" And then we'd sit and we'd do vichar of the Sakya and stuff. And recently, we were at the Guru Gar last year, and we we're doing some building work. And in the middle of the digging, we'd stop for drinks and stuff and rest. And some Singh would say, "Oh, what happened here?" And then we'd go over history of Sukha Singh and Matab Singh chopping Masarangar's head. And then we'd go over Guru Angad Dev Ji and the Mal Khara and stuff like that. And an hour or two would pass, and then you'll get back to work. Then we start working again. Wow. And one or two of the things would message in the evening, "Yo, that was really good today. I'm thinking about it still." And so we had a few house programs because it was lockdown. We couldn't really go to the Guru Gar. We could go to the Guru Gar, but there weren't big programs or anything. So we started having house programs at each other's houses. And sometimes they'd say, "This thing's doing Kirtan, you could tell a few Sakya after." And I thought, fair enough. And one time, one of the Singhs recorded the Sakya and he sent it to a couple of other Singhs who then started messaging me and saying, "We heard this Sakya is wicked. We can't wait for the next part." And then I thought, hang on, there's something here. And then one of the Singhs goes, "You know what, why don't you just do a podcast and put the Sakya out? And not just us, our group, but people who haven't got Sangat will connect to these Sakya as well." I thought, okay.
I love it because it's not something that you try to engineer. It's kind of, God's grace that it's chosen you, really.
It was very organic. Even the original one, I was just recording it to my phone like this, and then on apps and that, just adding a bit of music in the background after, and it just like afterwards I'd get messages of people enjoying it, and it just spiraled from there. And I thought, okay, now it's something that I've got to do. and it's just gone on from there. It's been a few months now.
That's amazing. So I don't know if you know much about my background, but I was like a skinhead kind of growing up. And then I got into Sikhi probably when I was about 19, 20, and after going to one of the camps. But I read by Veer Singh's Guru Nanak Chamatkar. I got it from behind the Kaltak. They have the bookstores there, don't they? I think Singh Brothers, and there's another one.
Jeevan Singh.
Yeah, that's it. So I used to go there and ask them, what books do you have in English? And there was Bairik Veer Singh, Veer. They had a few of his. They had a few of by Veer Singh, and they had a few of by Puran Singh.
Yeah.
And some of their and I would read these texts, and I thought there's such a khajana, there's such a treasure chest of literature within our community. And I would read by Veer Singh's book, and there's Kalgita. There's a one he's written. I would be reading it, I'd be crying, and I think this is so powerful, and this is just amazing, and it really helped to build my relationship with kind of spirituality and key principles that are in Gurbani. He talks about them in the book as well. So every chapter of the book he'll end with start with 5 minutes Simran. Your journey into this has been really amazing. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because that's as far as my knowledge of literature goes in terms of what's been translated into English and the few books that I've read. But obviously your depth of knowledge is on a completely different level. So, like you mentioned some people that you've had the honor of having the company of. If you're somebody like me who's getting into it, what resources apart from the podcast, like, are there any books or things that you would recommend people like must reads?
So going back to, how you're saying Sri Guru Nanak Chamatkar, that's definitely one. Sri Guru Dasme Paatshah's Chamatkar. And just a point to make on those, what you said, how reading those Sakya made you feel. There's one line in Gurbani that says, Sun Sakhi Man Jap Pyar. Listening to the Sakya, man, in your mind, in your heart, in your hirda, only love will blossom. And I think that's what happens when we listen to the Sakya, we feel that connection. In terms of book list wise, I'd say the book that has been, or the Granth that has been most influential in my life when it comes to the Sakya is Sri Guru Panth Prakash, written by Bhai Ratan Singh Pangu.
In terms of training methods, this is something that I've always considered. Like, cold showers are now really popular, and we talked about in the last episode. But Singhs have been having cold showers for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So what were the kind of training methods or lifestyle of the Sikh warriors, and are there any references to this?
So to look at training references, there are mentioned in Panth Prakash and in Suraj Prakash. It will tell you the training methods of Guru Har Gobind Sahib's army as well. How Guru Har Gobind Sahib's army was trained, what their regime was, and how it was organized. And in Panth Prakash, it talks about how Guru Gobind Singh would sit and watch his warriors train, how they'd run for hours on end, and he'd sit and watch. And the first warrior to come back after the run, he'd receive a thappi, how the Singhs would do Betka, the Indian style press ups, how they do those, how they do with the big clubs and stuff, how they do the ragre to build the arms and then feed that protein shake to the rest of the Singhs. And talks about how the Gurus partook in this. It talks about how they had fist fights, how they, in one of the things that they'd do is they'd go into unplowed field. So in Punjab, where the fields have just been plowed and there's clumps of dirt, and they'd have like stone fights, throwing stones at each other. As the youngsters, as the grown-up, part of their training was throwing these stones and stuff. And then other things it talks about is kabaddi and sonchiya. Sonchi is something that's taught in the Shastra Vidya Akhare now. It doesn't really exist anywhere else, where it's a game where it starts off, there's two opponents and they're just slapping each other. They'll slap on the cheeks and the chest.
That's really interesting, because coming from having a little bit of knowledge about wrestling, the cardio aspect, the runnings there, the strength and conditioning aspects there with the weighted clubs, plowing, all of that kind of stuff would be what we do, like the modern day stuff with the tire and the hammer, the kind of ways that we try to build our strength and conditioning. And then, you know, the boxing sounds like your fist fights would be the boxing aspect. And then grappling, obviously, that's well established. And the slapping, there are actually forms of wrestling. There's Senegal is really famous for this. Yeah, so they have a form of wrestling where you're allowed to slap and punch as well. And kabaddi, I didn't know there was a reference to kabaddi. I thought that was more of a modern day thing.
So the Sonchia are more referenced, but it's when I've sat with the old Bajurg, they'd explain to me the way we play kabaddi is the way they did Sonchia, because then they do team Sonchia as well, where it's like kabaddi, it's not kabaddi, it's like kabaddi, where there's 5-on-5 or 6-on-2, and they'd spar in that manner and fight in that manner in the same way. It's games, it's martial games to train the mind, the body, and the soul as well, really.
Why do you think training is a part of the Sikh tradition and fighting and, you know, this martial aspect? When you have, you know, Buddhists who potentially don't train, you have other spiritual traditions where that's not really a component.
Because you need to be able to defend your faith spiritually with vichar as well. And when, like Guru Gobind Singh says in Zafarnama, Chunkar Ajhama, Hirtadar Gujast, Halal Asburdan, But Shamshir Dast. When all means of protecting your family, your faith, your way of life fail, then it is just and it is recognized to pull out the Shamshir and to pull out the sword. In the same way, we're trained so we can protect others, protect ourselves and protect others. Like they say, like there's a quote about a rose. In order for the rose to be so beautiful, it needs to have those thorns to protect itself as well. In the same way, the Guru created the Khalsa as the thorns to protect the flower that is the dunya, the flower that is humanity. Yeah, basically, in Sikhi, all the Gurus are the same. The soul, the Shakti, the light, the Jyot within all the Gurus is the same. So for us, in our Manamat, to put a difference between Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Guru Har Gobind Sahib or Guru Gobind Singh Ji is our own intellect failing. But the truth is all the Gurus were the same, the philosophy was the same, everything was the same up until the Guru Granth Sahib and the Khalsa. Everything is one. The message is one. It's always been the same. And if you look at Sikh history, we can see that. And we're littered with examples of that. Guru, and what one Guru did, another Guru never went against. So Guru Angad Dev Ji Maharaj started Malakara. He started the wrestling Akharya at Kadur Sahib. So Guru Angad Dev Ji Maharaj beside this whole town and city, and in the middle of it, he placed a wrestling Akhara. And that Akhara still exists today. You could still go there, and it's looked after by the Nihang Singhs of Baba Bakala. The Jathadar, when I went there, the Jathadar's name was Baba Chakravarti. And at that time, when we were with the Nihang Singhs, we went there, and there was a Akhara taking place. And you could see like these like beastly guys going in, and they were, then they're going in and wrestling and that. And they're like, to me, what are you joining? And I was like, I'm not getting my ass kicked, not today, not in front of everyone, not yet. But next time, I'm gonna go in and jump in and face that pain. But that existed throughout all the Gurus. That then continued. It's like Guru Nanak Dev Ji started Langar. The same way the Langar continued throughout all the Gurus. We started the giving Daswant, so that continued throughout the Gurus, throughout the Panth. And in terms of even during Maharaja Ranjit Singh's time, I read recently a quote that Hari Singh Nalwa said, after I die, after I attain Shahidi, or my life is gone, you know, my ashes, when you burn them, sprinkle them, not in the Ganges, not in any river, sprinkle them in the wrestling Akhare, where the warriors will come to fight. Suraj Prakash, it goes into some detail about the strengths of the wrestlers and the strength of Guru Har Gobind Sahib themselves. It says that Guru Har Gobind Sahib was so strong, you know, if you get a coin with the face minted onto the coin, with his grip power of his index finger and thumb, he could mate, he could rub off the face of the coin. That was the strength. So imagine that grabbing you. They said if he grabbed your wrist, he could crush the bones within your wrist. And said that was his. So if you come and grabbed your wrist, he'd finish. And this Sakya where warriors have picked someone up, it's referenced in Suraj Prakash. They picked someone up and slammed them, that every single bone within that person would be crushed. I'm just going to go a few instances where wrestling or martial martial history of the Sikhs is referenced in Gurbani and in Sikh history. So we'll go with Gurbani first. And Maharaj writes, Hon Gasaida Pehelwanara, Me Gurbir Uchdamallara. So I am a wrestler, grappler of the Guru, and seeing and meeting the Guru, I have tied now Me Gurb Mil, meeting the Guru Uchdamallara, I've tied a tall war turban. Sab hoi chinja katya doye bete veke abjio. Now everyone's gathered together to watch this wrestling match, and the Guru is sitting himself and watching this wrestling match. So that's one time Maharaj's reference wrestling and how it's intertwined and littered throughout Sikh history. It comes that comes in the Malida Slok, so that's where I remembered it from. So every morning when Maan Singh ties his dastar, there's a slok. So it goes Patra ki gur parbram taj par panchmo balkar Nanak so radya antana paravar. And then Maharaj Guru Gobind Singh gave us this slok, and it was passed down through the Maan Singhs, and he goes Saje jo damala shute ko farda ajab soe chakkar khande tore wala Guru ji ne Fateh Singh ji ko bulaya challe go tor jaisa pant aisa mukh alaya हम अकाली सब के वाले हमारा पंथ न्यारा है दीन मजहब का जुद जो कि ना खंडा फरियाद उतारा है. Basically, Maharaj is talking about why we tie the mala, how we tie it. And he was Shai Mai Mar Sabdur ki ni slotar fariya kara raha hai. Any imposters, outsiders who come and try to cause harm, we have a slotar ready to deal them justice. Wow. And going on, we read Sukhmani Sahib, the Bibia read Sukhmani Sahib, our families all read Sukhmani Sahib. And there's one great Sakhi that links to Sukhmani Sahib and wrestling. Have you ever heard there's a link between Sukhmani Sahib and wrestling? There's one Sakhi, it's one of the sloks, I don't remember what slok, but it says, Sukhi base maskiniya aap nivar tale, bade bade ahankariya nanak garab kale. Maskiniya was a wrestler. He was a wrestler at the time of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. I'm going to very quickly tell the Sakhi because I'm being careful of time. So around Guru Arjan Dev Ji time, time of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, a Sikh comes to the Guru and asks, show me a good Sikh. Guru Arjan Dev Ji gives them a letter, goes, go to this bend, here you will find a Sikh, meet him and you'll see a Sikh. So it gets, but in order for him to open this letter, he must give you 100 rupees. So he goes to a bend, he finds the Sikh and realizes the Sikh's very poor, he has no money. And he gives him the letter from Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and that Sikh gets so happy. It was before even open the letter, he mutta takes the letter, he feeds the single langar, he feeds him whatever little he has in his house, then he opens the letter. On opening the letter, it reads that to open the letter, he goes out from his house and he sells the pande that he has. He sells his own belongings to get 100 rupees together to open this letter. Selling nearly all of his belongings, he then gets to open this letter. Opening the letter, he says, you are requested to come to Sri Darbar Sahib where the seva is happening and do langar. This langar will cost roughly 2,500 rupees or thereabouts. And the Singh now, the Sikh who took the letter, is feeling, oh my God, he's really shocked that this guy sold his belongings, he sold his pots and pans and everything he had to get 100 rupees. Now he's going to go out, and I don't know what he's going to do. How is he going to get this money to do this langar? And the Sikh who took the letter is now stressing. He's sweating there, he's stressing. And the Sikh that received the letter, he gets happy and he goes, now it's my mission to find this money. So he goes out into the villages, and to cut a long story short, he hears some people playing Tol, gathering everyone together for a wrestling akara. A world famous wrestler has come by the name of Maskinia, and he will give you 5,000 rupees if you beat him, 2.5 if you lose. And this Skinny Sukraja's Sikh goes, this is perfect. If I win, then Maharaj Kirpa. If I lose, then I'll have the money. But as he approaches the Akara, Maskini and the wrestlers then just laugh like, we will murder you. You don't understand the game. This is our life. We will slap you and knock your head off your shoulders. This is like someone like me challenging Fido Emelianenko, challenging the best wrestlers on the planet. Me trying to go against Ngannou and say, yeah, let's have a one-on-one. He will murder me. And the same way, this Sikh goes and he goes, oh, fight Maskinia. And then as he goes into the Akara, Maskinia sees this guy's got a look in his eye that he will not give up. He will die. Maskinia says to him, you will die fighting me. And he goes, it's okay if I die, but then I'll still get this Maya when I lose to do a langar. And Maskinia thinks to himself, someone's prepared to die fighting me and lose everything, lose their family and everything to get money to serve food. And as the wrestling match starts, Miskinya, something comes over him, some kirpa happens, and he throws the match and he loses. Losing the match, he loses all his sponsorships, all his people, his family, everyone turn on him. And he goes with this Gursikh to Guru Arjan Dev Ji afterwards, and they both go before the Guru Matta take. And that's when Maharaj says, Sukhi Base Miskinya, Miskinya, you showed humility, you will ever remain in peace. In Dasam now, Dasam is littered with weapons fighting all day. We could be here all day. But just speaking empty hand, there's a Shabad that goes, Siyantan ke asvaran ke, sir ek chapet hi ke, sir ek chapet hi ke, sang tore. On the battlefield, with one slap, we broke the warriors breaking necks. And that's it. There's some going on. This is a beautiful analogy. It goes, Durga, hunkyang khet tumke nagare, hunkyang like that. You know when you're in a fight and you're sparring, you go, like that, and you're breathing out, you know, Maharaj in Dasambani has said that Durga, hunkyang, he's put that sound effect of that fighting, of that force coming through in their Bani. And then going on, even in Dasam, he goes, Mukhan Kumara Mukhi, on the battlefield, the trading punches. That line goes to where armors falling off, they're punching each other. Going back to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, there's an actual talwar and chakra of Guru Nanak Dev Ji in a Gurdwara Sahib, near Patna Sahib in Bihar. Wow. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji themselves had a chakra on the dastar and the talwar. Also, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, wherever they went, to carry the dang, a lathi, a slotar, a staff. And there's links to this in Sikh history. So when Babur, the Mughal emperor, came to see Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and he matta tek before the Guru, he presented offerings and gifts. And when he was doing discourse before the Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji said to him, if you want to see the realms of Swarg, of your heavens and Sachkhand, hold on to my staff and I will take you. And Maharaj took him and showed him the other worlds. Going on from that, there's a Gurdwara called Dangmar Sahib in Tibet, where there's a lake which is frozen virtually year round. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji, on their travels, when they traveled there, they hit their dang, their staff, in the pani, in the water. And that section where Guru Nanak Dev Ji hit their staff, that section never freezes over. And then going on, in Nanak Prakash, when Guru Nanak Dev Ji went up to the Siddhs and they were having discourse in the mountains, having conversations, having debates and battles verbally and spiritually, at one point they were getting very hostile towards the Guru. And Bhai Mardana stepped up and he goes, Maharaj Ji, Chadyo Mara, shall I take him out with a wrestling technique? And Maharaj said to him, no. Here the Shabads will do battle, and through the Shabads battling, victory will be ours. And then even going on, so we've spoken about Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, obviously his wrestling partner was by Bende Khan, and Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji fought in battle as a youngster as well. In their early teens, they went and fought in the third battle of Guru Har Gobind Sahib. And then there's Guru Gobind Singh's with the Choda Jang throughout Suraj Prakash, the greatest battles to ever take place on earth, where 1,800,000 armed greatest warriors from across the globe came to Chamkaur Sahib, warriors from Africa, from across India, from Kashmir, like the best of the best, came to Chamkaur Sahib to earn a reputation. And then going on, Maharaja Ranjit Singh went to battle at the age of 12. He fought with his father. And then during the times of the Khalsa, when after the times of Banda Singh, around the times of Banda Singh Bahadur and the Tat Khalsa, Miri Singh and Sangat Singh, when there was a dispute between the Tat Khalsa of Baba Deep Singh and Baba Darbara Singh and the Bandai Khalsa, Banda Singh Bahadur, they had a wrestling match outside of Akal Takht Sahib. So if they settled things, disputes through wrestling, then you got to think it happened more. That's the famous time it was written down. You got to think it happened more than once, and it was a thing where, you know what, things are going to dispute. Well, that's so. From my understanding, from what I heard, what the Singhs have told me, that's around the time when Guru Gobind Singh Shikar Amrit and gave Amrit to the Singhs and the Khalsa. That's the hukam or words that he spoke out to them. We're taking Amrit, Sawalak se ek lal, tabe Gobind Singh naam ka, like Chiriyan so mein baaj lana. sparrows will fight hawks, one will fight 100. These are words of inspiration, words to instill bravery in the Singhs. And in the same way, when we read Gurbani, there's shabads in there like Deshiva Barmo Sobakarmanate Kapuna, Nadaru Arasu. So when the Singhs were going into battle, they'd be chanting these shabds like Nadaru Arasu, Nadaru Arasu. Jab London did go in. Jab Maharaj said, Jab Avak Yok in the Danavane, at the Hira Nameta, Juj Maro. Like, my last thing, all I want is to juge in the battlefield and fight. That's how the inbuilt the will to fight is in Sikh. Like Guru Nanak Dev Ji wrote the Shabad, Joto Prem Kilan Kachao. If you want to play the game of love, you take your head off, put it on the palm of your hand. That is exactly what happened in 1699 in the Amrit Sanchar. So that goes back to the point where the mission of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Guru Gobind Singh Ji were exactly the same because they were the same.
This has been really inspiring for me. It's always, to be honest, it's always inspiring to hear you speak and to listen to the podcast. So if anyone, I know a lot of fighters who they will read job aside before they have a fight when in the ring. I think everyone who fights and trains should know. So definitely connect with the podcast. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they find out about your work? Where can they access the podcast?
So let's go back to a quick story. You know Indy Singh, don't you? He was on, I think, episode 1.
Yeah.
One circumstance, he had an MMA fight, and before the MMA fight, he called me backstage, and he was getting his hands wrapped, and it was Baji, read some Bani, or I go, Tika, and we read some Bani. He was going for the Sambani job, and the fight took place. And after the fight, it went a bit crazy in the crowd and stuff, and the Singhs basically just dealt with the whole situation. And then Indy turned to me and he goes, "You know what? Could we because we read Bani of Maharaj, that the Singhs just held that large and looked after the whole situation." But going on, ask him about that one. But going on, you catch it on Instagram, Sikh History Series. If you just type in YouTube or Sikh History Series, and on SoundCloud. All right, can I just add one last thing? So basically, on the 17th of July, we're doing a seminar at Smedley Gurbani, and we will move it around the country as well. It's called Gay Sambal Seminar, and it is for all ages, but this one's set for 12 plus up to 40, 50, whoever needs it. And what it is Gay Sambal. So first we'll teach the children or the adults, whoever needs that help, how to do a jura, how to tie the malla, how to tie a patka. And then we'll be going through martial arts techniques or self-defense techniques of what to do when you're the start of case or attack. Because there's been a lot of kids, Sikh kids who have been bullied recently, their patke or jura have been opened and they've kind of frozen. So we're going to address that issue of what to do in those situations. If your gutti does open, what to do.
It would be great to have you on again to talk about that.
Oh, definitely.
The impact of the tour, but also Gears is a big part of our identity, right? And we could have another episode on the significance of Gears or the historical references and the Gurbani related to that, because I think again that's a topic that's not. It's kind of people accept it as it's a fact that we have to keep our Gears, but they don't sometimes know the significance or the rationale or the historical reasoning, all the references behind it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I know this is going to be really well received, and we will follow up in the references. So if you want to find out more, check out the references.
Thank you, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.